Howdy, Almanacs Lives. I think it's time to play a little 7 Days Die. Alright. Nope, that is not what I wanted. I wanted some food. And you know what? I think my food is over here. I got a lot of stuff in my inventory. I got no room for my food. Oh, you know what? Food can go right here. Apparently I need to empty some junk. Ooh, I bought the, did I buy the steel knuckle schematics while I was recording? I don't know, but I got the steel knuckle schematics. I got one more acid. Which is awesome. I also bought this book. I'm pretty sure I did that one on camera. You need that. You can go. You should get scrapped. Okay. Wheels go in here. Battery goes in here. Got some raw food bits can go in here. Oh, you know what? This can also go in the raw food. I think all the medicine's done. Yep. Alright. Will you get over here? Okay. Let's see what we gotta do to make these steel knuckles as well. Steel knuckles. Alright, I need 12 steel knuckle parts, 25 forged steel, 7 leather, 7 duct tape. I have got 5 forged steel. Parts. And I have got 2 steel knuckle parts. Yeah. Alright, so I currently... Oh, you know what? I currently need to eat. Alright. So I currently need to find one more acid. So I might try to find a new town or a new trader. So I might look around here. I think that's what I'm going to do. I haven't been out that way very far. So we'll see how that goes then. We finished Miss Marvel. So spoilers for Miss Marvel. I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was nice to see something more along the lines of what I expect from a superhero-based show. After watching Thor: Love and Thunder, I was... Well, not just that. WandaVision, I thought, was pretty awful. The Multiverse of Madness, couldn't think what it was called there for a second. Also, since that was just the finale to WandaVision, I didn't really care for that either. Neither of those was as terrible as Thor: Love and Thunder though, and so you know, I'm starting to have my doubts about. I didn't care for the last Spider-Man movie either, to be honest. Parts that were really fun, but mostly those were the parts with guys from older movies. And I don't mean the Andrew Garfield movies. I mean the Tobey Maguire movies, because I thought Andrew Garfield was terrible. Not him, but the movie was terrible. And oh look, here's a trader. Have I been to this guy? I don't know. I don't think it was marked on my map. I'm pretty sure I've been to him though. I'm pretty sure I came out here. I don't know though. It's not marked on the map. It's not marked on the map. I might not have been here. I haven't been here. The door's open. I think I might have been here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've definitely been here. There's a dead buzzard on the ground. I need one more bit of acid, man. You ain't got... I am, because you're an awful person. Right, I wanted to mark this on the map. I'm about to start marking awful traders on the map so I don't have to come back to them. I appreciate being talked to that way. So, hey Zombie Bear. Yeah, Miss Marvel. I thought it was pretty good. It's if you haven't watched it, it's a series about a teenage girl getting superpowers, and then dealing. Oh yeah, this didn't go anywhere. Well, I guess we could go north then. I do see there's a road out from the. As I move my mouse around, I noticed there's a road out from the colder area there, so we might go check that out and see if that leads to a new town. But yeah, I thought they did a pretty good job. It was funny, but in a more natural funny. I actually expected there to be a lot more like. So I have limited familiarity with the character. I haven't read any of the comics that she's based off of. I really only know her from that one Marvel game that came out for the computer. Well, I guess for anything, the video game. And so I knew she was like into comic books and stuff. And I saw the trailer, right, had a bit of that in it. And so I was expecting a bit more of that than actually happened. But for the most part, it was, it was about what I expected. It was funny. It had some good fight scenes, and had a pretty decent storyline for. Okay, dude. All right, I get it. You're following me. Okay, now stop following me. But I did enjoy it. I thought they could have done a little bit more with at the end. They wind up with another person with superpowers that are maybe the opposite of hers. It was hard to tell exactly what was going on there. I feel like so I read a lot of comic books. Just they're the DC comic books. And I read a few Marvel comic books as well from time to time. Uh, I own most of the main. No, I own most of the non-main Nightcrawler stuff. Like I don't own the X-Men comic with Nightcrawler in it, right? But I have all the like he was on Excalibur. I have all the Excalibur comics. I have the Nightcrawler specific series, stuff like that, and because he's my favorite X-Men. So I've read some of their stuff. I used to read the X-Men Marvel stuff as well as the DC stuff, but they had this whole Avengers versus X-Men crossover, and it made me so mad I just stopped reading it. It was really dumb, and there's way too much people wanting Cyclops to be the leader, but Cyclops always being a terrible person. And so, there's just so much Cyclops I can take. He literally, in the last part when I quit reading, they had gathered all the mutants that were left, because there's this big event that took place where like most of the mutants in the world got wiped out, and so they had taken a bunch of them that were left out to this island, and they were being attacked by well, it was a it was a distraction, actually. The if I remember correctly, and it's been a few years, one of the members of the Hellfire Club, which are a group of bad guys, was trying to take over, and so he needed the current leaders to be distracted, and so he made a deal with one of the X-Men's enemies to attack, so that because the X-Men are friends with some of the members of the Hellfire Club, and so they could take the Hellfire Club, but they couldn't take the Hellfire Club plus the X-Men. And so he sent one of the big Sentinel bad guys, not a Sentinel, but like the Sentinel. The one of the named ones. I don't remember which one it was. After the X-Men, so that he could take out the Hellfire Club. And so when it started marching on the island, it's basically a handful of the various X-Men members and a bunch of young mutants who've never been in combat before. And so Wolverine was like telling one of the X-Men, get the kids, get him out of here. We'll hold it off as long as we can. And Cyclops was like, no, I'm the leader here. You get those kids and you get them, into the water against this thing. And Wolverine was like, but some of them are going to die if we do that. And then Cyclops is like, that's what happens in war, and they need to learn that that's what war is. And so then Wolverine's like, yeah, well, I'm not going to do that. And so he starts telling the kids to head into safety. And so Cyclops shoots him in the back, because he won't obey Cyclops' orders. And pretty much sums up my feelings for Cyclops right there. He's an awful, petulant, arrogant person, who's driven mostly by his ego, which, is constantly being hurt, and so he's just vengeful to everyone constantly. I can't stand him. But yeah. And then you got people like, what is it, Nightcrawler's daughter, who's told she can't use her powers anymore because it's going to kill her, who starts teleporting people to safety during an event over and over and over until she dies, because, that's what a real comic book hero would do, not shoot one of their fellow teammates in the back because they want to send children to die and the other one won't let them. Um, anyways, uh, yeah, and then they have the Avengers thing. They've got a, they've got a. This is such a side tangent. Basically, no more mutants could be born, and anyone who wasn't, um, I don't, I don't recall the reasoning behind why some of them remained. Um, but only some of the mutants were left behind after all the rest of the mutants got erased from history, basically. And since no more new mutants were being born, they were drawing together, as a group on this island. And, well, one of the things that happened was they ended up with, I want to say it's Cyclops, and Jean Grey's daughter from the future is brought back into the past to keep her safe. This looks like a pretty big town on my right here. I thought it was one of those little, shanty towns, but there might be a trader here. Nope, see, now that I've pulled into it, it looks like one of those shanty towns. Not shanty towns, that's not what I meant. I meant, one of those old west towns. Yeah, there's not a... I don't think there's a trader here. Yeah, we'll pull through it, just to make sure. And so, it turned out that she had the ability to awaken people's latent mutant abilities, which wasn't happening anymore. That had stopped occurring, but she can do it. And so the X-Men wanted her for that. And then the problem is that she's the perfect host for the Phoenix, which is this huge cosmic entity that just burns up everything around it, basically. And so the Avengers believe that if she's on Earth, that it will come for her and burn up Earth. And so Captain America wants to kill her. Because in those comics, he's no better than Cyclops. And so then they had this big X-Men versus Avengers matchup where they fought over Hope. That was the girl's name. And so I was into it. I thought it'd be fun. I didn't care for the storyline so much. I thought they were being weird and they wouldn't act like that. But it'd be fun to see, some of the different mutants and Avengers fight each other. But then they had, like, people who couldn't possibly win in a fight beating different members that would win if you actually sat down and played out a real fight between them. And so it was bizarre at that point. And I'm like, nope, that's it. I'm done. You guys, all your storylines are terrible. Your leaders are both trying to murder children. I'm done. I'm just done with your nonsense. So that was when I quit reading Marvel. But anyways, one of the things that I noticed reading through comics, which a lot of these Marvel movies are based off of, is comic book writers have a terrible time with continuity. And I don't mean like long, multi-year, I'm not... it would be awesome. Very few comics manage it, but it would be awesome if you're reading a comic and as the years go on, the comic remembers what took place in the past, and so the story just builds off of what happened before. I know that can hurt comic book sales because people don't want to jump into a comic that has such a long history that you would need to read old comics you probably can't get your hands on to know what the story is. But, as someone who enjoys stories, I like my stories to, have some continuity to them. And at least for DC anyways, in recent years, So DC, they did this thing called the New 52. I don't know, it's been about 10 or 12 years, something like that. And they rebooted almost. And so everybody started over, not everybody, but a lot of the comics started over at issue number 1, and a lot of the characters started over like they were brand new to their powers and stuff like that. Because they want to bring in new readers. Now, not everybody rebooted from scratch. They did a weird thing with Batman where like they compressed everything that had happened to Batman down into a couple of years, um and then just made it happen before he met Superman for the most part. Um and I think Green Lantern also didn't reboot. So those two kept their backstories, but everything else pretty much started over from scratch at that point. It's not like that now. They've ooh, what's this? Oh, I thought you were a trader. That was such a big building just to come out of nowhere like that. Well, looks like we got town to look around, see if I can't find a trader's. I know I could probably, trying to loot some. Actually, a trader shows up with a mouth over him, so if I just glance on the map every once in a while here, I might be able to find him. Uh, so, when New 52 started, they had like editors that tried to keep everything in continuity, which I thought was a great idea. And then, they just decided that well, they put people in charge that I don't care for, and those people had been angry since the New 52, and they wanted things to go back to the way they were before the New 52. Um, and so ever since those people got put in charge, they dropped continuity because they said it was rooting their ability to tell stories. And so now none of the stories match up, and sometimes you don't even get the story in the same comic to match up. I'm like, okay, so did you forget what you did 2 pages ago? So they don't have editors who watch for continuity anymore. Um, and yes, this is still tying back into Miss Marvel. Uh, and uh, and so I hate it. I hate that they don't try to tell a coherent story half the time. It gets very confusing if you read like Batman, right? Is one of my favorite heroes, and so it's very confusing because there's a lot of different Batman comics, and I've noticed that DC has a tendency to not have different stories necessarily, but have different versions of the same story going at the same time. And so it makes for some really, really confusing things happening when you're trying to read the comics and you're like, okay, I don't even remember what's going on here, and then you're thinking that this one thing happened, but really that happened in the other comic. Um, like at one point they had 2 or 3 versions of the same story happening involving the entire DC universe. Uh, there was like a zombie apocalypse, but they had 2 different zombie apocalypses, and so the stories weren't connected to each other, but they were both zombie apocalypses, and they ran for multiple months, and they overlapped. They were being put out at the same time, and so it was very confusing because it was the same type of story, and then on top of that, they threw in a Wonder Woman standalone story where Wonder Woman got placed into a thing by like a cryo chamber by Batman to protect her from a, a different kind of zombie apocalypse. And so she woke up way in the future, where the whole world was like taken over by these like biological entities. They weren't zombies, but they're more like the Thing, or not the comic book The Thing, but like the movie The Thing, or like the third season of Stranger Things, where everybody turns to goo and then forms into a giant monster. But that's basically really similar. Here we go. Here's the traders. I found you. It was very similar to what was going on in the other two comics, and so you're just like, so is this Wonder Woman thing like the future of one of these other stories? Uh, you know, what you got, guy? You wouldn't happen to have any acid for sale, would you? I came a long way. You just have a lot of stuff for sale, but I don't see any acid. What about over here in your... Dang it.
I knew you didn't have money the moment I laid eyes on you.
I'm gonna pick your locks. You're safe from back here. So, one of the things that I thought they could have used a little more of in Miss Marvel was continuity. So they had this guy, and Miss Marvel, she got her powers, but her powers seem to be like shield based, or um, yeah, I would say that. I would say her powers are more shield based, and uh, so she forms like these barriers of light, and they got a name for it. It's like Noor or something like that. And uh, so then her spoilers for Miss Marvel, like I said, what ends up happening is they want her to tear open this pathway between the worlds where Noor comes from, and but it might destroy Earth, and so she doesn't want to do it. And then when it starts to happen, one of the bad guys, you know, tries to control it, and it winds up hitting this other guy and giving him powers. And so sometimes when they show him use his powers are the kind of the opposite of hers. And so instead of being a barrier, it tears things apart. Um, and which I thought was a cool idea. And so like she'd hit a wall, but it would be like with her barrier power, she'd make like a giant fist, right? And and so with her giant fist, it would like smash through the wall, right? But there'd be like rubble and stuff. Well, in this guy, if he hit the wall, well then instead of smashing, the wall would just be gone. And so I thought that was cool. I thought it was cool that they had kind of like opposite powers because of what had happened. But then they also had him like forming barriers and hitting people with it where it didn't tear things apart. And I'm like, okay, so what's the deal here? He's just basically got her power, except when you don't want him to have her power. Uh, like I get the tear things apart because basically his power comes from the right the terror between worlds, and so he's like a void or whatever. And I thought that was cool, made sense. But what doesn't make sense is why sometimes he can just hit people with it and they don't like have their armor shredded or anything. And then he does make a shield for himself at one point, and I'm like, okay, but how is he making a shield? Shouldn't that be like a void? Like, it, I don't know. It was cool. I just wished it had been a little more continuity to what his powers were. Um, Uh, and again, it suffers from the fact it's only 6 episodes. I don't know why Disney decided on 6 episodes for a lot of this stuff. It's either too long for the story they tell or not enough. It's pretty rare to see one where it's just the right amount. And this one definitely was too short. Um, uh, they they did this whole thing in India where they introduce a whole nother like group of people, but they barely get any like lead up to them or anything, and they, other than rescuing her for half a second, they don't really get a lot of playtime, and so it's a little confusing as to what their purpose is. Um, like they're like, "Ooh, we're against the clandestine." That's the name of the bad guys. But why? Like, we haven't seen the clandestine do anything. All they want is for Kamala to open the path between worlds. Like that's it. You haven't shown the clandestine really. I mean, sure they're violent, they're killing people trying to get to her, but only because they're trying to get to her. You haven't shown them as some kind of group who's, changing things or, attacking things. Really, you need another episode at least to build out the clandestine and uh, the red knives. I think they were called the red knives. Um, maybe I don't know. I don't know if she'll get another season. I know Disney says they're only gonna do like one seasons of these things. But it was pretty enjoyable. And then it ties into the next Captain Marvel movie. And so it does end with Miss Marvel will return in The Marvels, which is the next Captain Marvel movie. Well, I did not find acid at this store. Maybe there's another town. We can drive past the trader I did find, I guess, today, and see if there's another town out that way. But that'll be something to check for next time. So with that, be bearing the small things, lean to the light, and I will talk to you later.